Have you ever walked into a room and just felt, like everyone else is speaking a different language, like they're in some secret club, right? And you were invited. It's like they're just tossing around jargon, inside jokes, and connecting so effortlessly while you're just kind of stuck there awkwardly sipping your drink. Well, guess what? There's actually a way to break into ANY crowd and sound like you totally belong. We're going to crack the code of human connection today, give you the skills to become a master conversationalist in this deep dive. We've got a stack of fascinating sources here, books, articles, even some research papers, and we're going to extract like the absolute juiciest bits from them, the kind of insights that can transform how you interact with everyone. So first things first, did you know that before you even say anything, your body's sending messages? It's like a whole secret language we all speak, but we don't really pay attention to it. Subtle shifts in your posture, your movements, can project like confidence, warmth, trustworthiness. It's like you're speaking, but silently. And people are totally picking up on it. One of the things that really stood out to me was this idea of a flooding smile. Instead of just grinning the second you see someone, which can feel kind of forced, you pause. You really acknowledge them, and then you let a warm, genuine smile just spread across your face. It makes it seem like your smile is just for them, like a gift. I was honestly a little skeptical at first, but I tried it at a networking event the other day. You know, the kind where everyone's awkwardly shuffling around trying to make eye contact. Anyway, so I see this woman standing by herself looking a bit lost, and I walk over. Paused for a beat, looked her in the eye, and then smiled. And you wouldn't believe how she lit up. We instantly connected. And then there's this other technique. It's called sticky eyes. This one might sound a bit strange, but stick with me. Think of your eyes like warm taffy, slowly and reluctantly pulling away from, the person you're talking to. Weird, right? But the idea is that intense eye contact shows like understanding and respect. I know, it can feel a bit intense, but trust me, it works. I used to be the queen of darting eye contact. The second here, look away, back again, like a nervous bird. But when I started doing sticky eyes, I noticed that people actually leaned in closer, like they were hanging on my every word. But what about when you have to actually start a conversation? Ugh, small talk. Like a minefield, am I right? But what do you even say after, hi, how are you, without sounding completely cliche? One trick I found is this idea of prosaic with passion. It's not about what you say, it's how you say it. You can talk about anything, even something as simple as the weather, as long as you're like genuinely enthusiastic about it. Remember that time we were stuck in that crazy downpour after that concert? We ended up talking to a complete stranger about, of all things, umbrellas. But it was hilarious. The point is, if you bring energy and passion, even the most boring topics can become engaging. Another great icebreaker is to always wear a what's it. It's like wearing a conversation starter. Could be a unique piece of jewelry, a funky hat, a t-shirt with a funny slogan, anything that stands out and gives people a reason to approach you. I have this friend who always wears these bright mismatched socks. They're loud, but people always comment on them. Oh, I love your socks, or where did you get those? It's a fun way to break the ice. When someone asks you, where are you from? Don't just state your hometown. That's what they call the naked city. Boring. Instead, paint a picture, add a detail, a quick story about your connection to that place. So instead of saying, I'm from Chicago, I might say, I'm from Chicago, the city where the wind almost blew me off a skyscraper. Okay, maybe slight exaggeration, but you get the idea. Makes you more interesting, memorable. Speaking of memorable, it always makes a good impression. A well-placed compliment. But you don't want to sound insincere or creepy, right? So that's where the indirect compliment comes in. Instead of praising someone directly, which can be awkward, try complimenting them to a mutual friend. Like you're planting a seed of goodwill that eventually gets back to them. Like the other day, I overheard a colleague praising another colleague's presentation skills. So later, I made sure to mention it to their mutual friend. You know what? That colleague came up to me later and actually thanked me for passing along the compliment. It really meant a lot to them. And if you hear someone praising someone else, don't let it die there. Pass it on. They call it carrier pigeon kudos. It's a simple act of kindness that can really make someone's day. But let's say you're deep in conversation and you really want to leave a lasting impression. That's when you use the killer compliment. It's all about noticing something specific, unique, and positive about someone and complimenting them on it as you wrap up the conversation. The key here is to be genuine and observant. Really pay attention to what makes this person tick. Like I was talking to a client the other day, and I noticed how calm and collected he was, even though we were dealing with a really stressful situation. So as we were wrapping up, I said, I really admire your ability to stay so calm under pressure. It's something I'm working on myself. And you know what? He was genuinely touched. He said he'd never thought of it as a strength before, but it meant a lot that I noticed. These small techniques can really elevate your conversations from ordinary to extraordinary. It's about making people feel seen, heard, and appreciated, which is what makes a conversation truly meaningful, right? But it's not just about the words you say. It's about creating that connection, that feeling that you're speaking the same language. And there are some surprisingly effective ways to do that, starting with echoing. Have you ever noticed how when you're really clicking with someone, you start using the same words and phrases, like you're on the same wavelength? Well, you can actually use this to your advantage. Subtly mirror your conversation partner's language, and they'll subconsciously feel a sense of similarity and connection, like you're speaking their language, literally. Now, here's another interesting thing. People tend to express themselves through different senses. Some are more visual, they'll talk about what they see or imagine. Others are more auditory, they'll say things sound good or ring true. And then some are all about feelings, They go with their gut or their emotional response. And you can tailor your responses to match their dominant sense. This creates a deeper understanding and empathy. It's called anatomically correct empathizers. And it's all about paying attention to the kind of language someone's using. If they say, "I see what you mean," you might respond with, "You have a clear vision for that." If they're all about sound, like "That rings true to me," you can say, "I hear you loud and clear." And if they're using feeling-based language, like "I have a gut feeling about this," you can empathize with, "I can sense your passion for this." It's a small detail, but it makes a difference. People feel heard when you speak their language in every sense of the word. And here's a technique that might sound a little bold, but it's super effective: the premature we. It's about creating a sense of intimacy by using we, us, and our in your conversations, even if you just met the person. I used to hesitate using we with new people, but I've realized it actually breaks down barriers and makes people feel more comfortable, like you're signaling you're on the same team, which builds rapport. Instead of saying, "I think this is a great idea," you might say, "I think we're onto something great here." It subtly shifts the dynamic from me versus you to us working together. But what about those times when conversations get a bit, tricky? Those awkward moments, those social minefields we all dread. Well, there are ways to handle those situations with grace. One of my favorite techniques is see no bloopers, hear no bloopers. Ignore minor slips, spills, those little social faux pas. It shows grace, puts others at ease, and honestly, it makes you look like a pro. I remember having lunch with a potential client once, and he spilled his entire glass of water all over himself. I mean, it was a mess, but I just kept talking like nothing happened. He was mortified, but I think he appreciated that I didn't make a big deal out of it. And here's a little tip. If someone's story gets cut off, be the hero and bring the conversation back to them. Shows you value their contribution and makes you a champion of good conversation. They call this rescue the story. It's a simple act of kindness, but it goes a long way. Like imagine you're at a party, someone's telling a great story, and then someone else jumps in with their own anecdote. Instead of letting that first story get lost, you can gently steer the conversation back. You could say something like, "Wait, you were telling us about that crazy trip to Guinea. Where was it again?" It shows you were listening and that you value their story. Now, parties, they can be amazing opportunities to connect, but they can also be a little overwhelming. What do you even talk about? Who do you talk to? How do you navigate the crowd without spilling your drink on someone? There are a few things you can do to make the most of social gatherings, starting with this golden rule. Parties are for prater. Keep it light, playful, no serious business talk, no delivering bad news. Parties are a safe haven for fun and connection. Same goes for dinner parties. Dinner's for dining, so enjoy the food, the company, the conversation. Save the heavy stuff for another time. And if you run into someone you've been meaning to talk to, keep it brief, casual. Chance encounters are for chit-chat. You don't want to ambush them or make them feel pressured. A friendly greeting, a quick catch-up is all you need. It's amazing how many unspoken rules there are in social situations, right? But once you understand them, it's like having a secret code to navigate any gathering with confidence. It's funny, how we often focus on what we're going to say next in a conversation instead of like really listening to the other person. Active listening, though, it's like the secret sauce to building those real connections, right? One technique that just, blew my mind is this thing called parroting. It's basically repeating a few key words or phrases that your conversation partner uses just to show you're getting it, you're with them. Might sound super simple, but it works wonders. It encourages them to elaborate, to feel heard, and it just creates this sense of rapport. It's like you're speaking their language, validating their thoughts. I remember using this with a colleague who was explaining this super complex project. I was honestly lost, but I just started repeating a few phrases back to him. And I was able to clarify things, show him I was engaged. Made a huge difference. Speaking of engagement, you know what always livens things up? A good story. But what if you're not like a natural storyteller? I mean, I love a good story, but I'm no Shakespeare actor. Well, there's this trick called encore that takes all the pressure off you and puts a spotlight on, well, your conversation partner. You encourage someone to retell a great story they've already told, but to a bigger group. It flatters them, gives them a chance to shine, and you get some ready-made entertainment. Win-win. I did this at a dinner party once. One of the guests was telling me this hilarious story about a travel mishap. And later, when the conversation died down a bit, I just turned to her and said, you know, everyone would love to hear that story about what happened to you in Italy. She was a little hesitant, but once she started, she had the whole table in stitches. It's amazing how a simple prompt can just turn someone into the life of the party, you know?
Yeah.
Takes the pressure off you to be witty or whatever. Okay, real talk for a second. How do you handle those moments when someone's bragging, trying to one-up you in the conversation? It's so tempting to get defensive or, try to outdo them, but there's a better way. Big winners, they get that it's not about winning the conversation. It's about making the other person feel good. There's this technique called the tombstone game that really helps with this. It starts by shifting the focus from those external achievements, like who has the bigger house, to more personal values. How do you do that? Well, you can casually mention that you were reading about, tombstones and how people imagine what they want their epitaph to say. Then ask your conversation partner what quality they would most like to be remembered for. Such a simple question, but it can really open up a deeper conversation. Takes the focus off all that superficial stuff and encourages people to think about their core values. It's a powerful way to connect on a more meaningful level. You know what else is important in conversations? Being mindful of the language we use. It's not just about avoiding offensive words, it's about using language that's inclusive and respectful. One area where this is super important is gender. We got to be careful not to use language that, reinforces stereotypes or excludes certain groups. Instead of businessman, use business person. Simple. And when referring to a group, try to avoid gender-specific pronouns unless you know everyone's gender. They, them, it's small change, but it makes a big difference in creating a more inclusive environment. Speaking of inclusivity, it's really impressive. Being able to talk to people from different cultures and backgrounds, it shows you're worldly, have genuine interest in different perspectives. One key to that is being aware of different customs, different etiquette. Like in some cultures, direct eye contact is rude, while in others it's a sign of respect. And physical touch, well, what's considered appropriate in one culture might be totally off limits in another. Do your research, be respectful. I remember once, traveling in Asia, I accidentally offended someone by pointing my feet at them. Had no idea it was disrespectful. Learned a valuable lesson that day. It's always better to be cautious and mindful, and be patient with language barriers. Don't expect everyone to speak your language perfectly. Slow down, rephrase, use gestures. It's challenging, but it's so rewarding to connect with people from different walks of life. Like opening a window to a whole new world. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Talking to VIPs. Those people at the top of their game, CEOs, celebrities, authors, it can be intimidating, right? But they're just people. And they appreciate a good conversation just like anyone else. One of the best ways to make a good impression is to do your homework. Learn about their work, their interests. Don't just fangirl or gush, Show them you respect their work and want to engage on a deeper level. I was at a conference where a famous author was speaking. Before the event, I read one of her books and made a note of a passage that really resonated with me. Later, when I got to talk to her, I mentioned it, explained why it struck a chord. She was so touched that I'd engaged with her work on that level. And you know what else is important with VIPs? Respecting their time. They're busy people, so keep it brief, to the point. Don't monopolize them, Be mindful of others who might want to chat with them too. It's about being gracious and considerate. But here's the thing about VIPs. They often have gatekeepers. Those assistants or secretaries who control access. It can be tough to get past them, but there are a few tricks. One is to be super friendly to the gatekeepers, even if they're a bit brusque. They're just doing their job, and a little kindness can go a long way. Plus, they might put in a good word for you. Another technique is to use a confident, familiar tone when you call. Instead of asking for them by name, try saying, "Is she in?" It kind of implies you're on a first-name basis, which can help. But let's say you do get through and they're not available. The message you leave, that's crucial. Think of it as a 10-second audition. Make sure it's clear, concise, and intriguing. Don't just say your name and number. Give them a reason to call back. Mention a shared connection, an interesting project, something that piqued their interest before. Make them curious. And here's a little secret. VIPs often have spouses or partners who are, really important in their lives. Don't underestimate saluting the spouse. When you call their home, always greet whoever answers, even if it's not the person you want. It shows respect, and it can make a difference in how seriously they take your call. If you're calling their office a lot, like a journalist trying to get an interview, make friends with the secretary. They often have a lot of influence over who gets through. But here's the thing about talking to anyone, VIP or not. It's not just what you say, it's how you make them feel. One of the best ways to do that is to make them feel like they're the most important person in the room. There's this technique called the exclusive smile. It's about saving your most genuine, engaging smile for that person you're talking to, as if they're the only one who matters. Think about it. When someone smiles at you like that, it makes you feel special, right? Like you have their full attention. I used to smile at everyone equally, but I've realized that, reserving my best smile for those special moments of connection makes a huge difference in how people respond. It's like a secret signal that says you're important. And you know what else is important? Body language. Those unspoken signals we're always sending. It can either help or hurt our conversations. One mistake people make is crossing their arms. Seems harmless, right? But it sends a message of being closed off, defensive, like putting up a wall. Instead, try keeping your arms open, relaxed, shows you're approachable, open to connecting. And speaking of connecting, it's really captivating? Eye contact. Shows you're present, interested, listening. I used to have trouble with eye contact, but it's about finding a balance. Don't stare them down, but don't look away constantly either. That shows disinterest. Find that sweet spot where you're connecting but not being creepy. Your posture matters too. Standing tall, confident, shows authority. Slouching makes you look insecure. Our posture really influences how others see us. I was giving a presentation once, and I caught myself slouching. I straightened up, pulled my shoulders back, and I instantly felt more confident. And I think it projected that to the audience as well. It's amazing how these small adjustments to our body language make such a difference. We're always sending out signals, whether we realize it or not. It's not about being perfect, though. It's about being aware and making those conscious choices that match how we want to come across. We all slip up, feel awkward sometimes. Be kind to yourself, keep practicing, and it'll become second nature. Okay, let's talk about a skill that could really take your conversations to the next level. Storytelling. Stories, they have this power to transport us, evoke emotions, create memories. They're like magic. One key to good storytelling is to start with a hook, something that grabs the listener's attention. Could be a surprising fact, a thought-provoking question, a vivid description, something that makes them want to hear more. I once heard a speaker who started with a story about a near-death experience. Talk about a hook. I was hooked. On the edge of my seat the whole time. Another important thing is suspense. Don't reveal everything at once. Let the story unfold gradually. Keep them guessing. Think about your favorite books, movies. They don't give away the ending right away. They keep you guessing, turning the pages until the very end. Vivid imagery is key too. Use descriptive language that brings the story to life. Instead of saying, "It was a beautiful day," you might say, "The sun was a golden orb in a sky the purest blue, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of honeysuckle." See the difference? It's like painting a picture with words. But storytelling isn't just about reciting facts. It's about connecting with your audience emotionally. Share your experiences, your vulnerabilities, your insights. Let people see your human side. I was given a talk about overcoming challenges, and I shared a story about a time when I felt like a total failure. I was nervous to share it, but it really resonated with the audience. They saw me as a real person, not just a speaker. Those moments of vulnerability are what create real connection. And be mindful of your audience. Tailor your stories to them and their interests. Don't tell a long story about golf to someone who's never played. It's about being considerate and engaging your audience in a way that's relevant to them. Would you want to hear that story? If not, maybe it's time to switch gears. Storytelling is a skill, though, and it takes practice. Don't be afraid to experiment, try different things, find your own style. The more you practice, the more confident and engaging you'll become. And who knows? You might even discover you're a natural. Okay, let's talk about something that's, never fun. Delivering bad news.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to be the bearer of bad tidings, right? Super awkward, can be uncomfortable, but we all have to do it. The key is to be direct, honest. Don't beat around the bush or sugarcoat things. People appreciate honesty, even when it's tough. Like, I had to tell a client their project was delayed once. Bunch of unforeseen circumstances, not my fault, but I knew I had to be upfront with them. Took a deep breath and just laid it all out. Reasons for the delay, new timeline, everything. They weren't thrilled, but they respected that I didn't make excuses. Honesty really is the best policy, but it's not everything. You got to be empathetic too, right? Put yourself in their shoes. How would you feel if you were getting this news? Acknowledge their emotions, validate their concerns. Even if you don't agree with them, show them you understand. Here's a little tip. Try not to use the word but when you're trying to soften the blow. Can sound kind of dismissive, like, I hear you, B-U-T. Instead, use and to connect your statements. So instead of, I understand you're upset, but there's nothing I can do, you could say, I understand you're upset, and I want to do everything I can to help. Makes a big difference. Sometimes, though, we got to stand up for ourselves, defend our position. How do you do that without coming across as, aggressive? There's this technique, the power of because. It's all about giving a clear, solid reason for what you're asking or saying. Think about it. When someone gives you a reason, it makes their request seem more reasonable, right? Not just demanding, but explaining why they need it. Like, I was trying to get a refund for a faulty product the other day. The customer service rep was giving me the runaround, but I held my ground, calmly explained I deserved a refund because the product was faulty. And guess what? It worked. Giving that reason shifted the power, and I got what I wanted. But assertiveness isn't just words, it's body language too. Stand tall, eye contact, clear voice. Take up space. Not aggressive, just confident. Like, I'm here, I have a voice, and I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about something a little juicier. Gossip. We all love a little gossip, right? Did you hear about so-and-so? But got to be careful. It can be toxic. Damage relationships, reputations. How do you handle it? One way is to redirect the conversation. Someone starts talking trash. Change the subject. Talk about something positive. Like if they say, do you hear what so-and-so did? Awful. You can say, I haven't spoken to them lately. How are their kids doing? Subtle shift away from the negativity. You can also just refuse to engage. Someone's trying to drag you into drama. Politely decline. Say something like, I'm not comfortable talking about someone behind their back. Sets a boundary. Shows you're not into the drama. What if someone's gossiping about you? That stings, right? There's this thing called the judo flip that can really turn it around. Use the gossiper's own words against them. Expose their negativity. Like, if someone tells you someone else was saying bad stuff about you, you say, oh, interesting. I wonder why they'd say that to you. Subtly puts the focus back on their negativity. All right, switching gears again. Apologies. We all mess up, right? It's inevitable. But knowing how to apologize well can change everything. Repair trust, mend relationships, make things right, be specific. Don't just say, I'm sorry. Explain what you're sorry for. Like, not just, sorry I was late. Say, sorry I was late for the meeting. I got stuck in traffic. Should have planned better. Shows you get it. And take responsibility. No excuses, no blaming others. Own your mistake. Acknowledge how it affected the other person. Another tip, don't use if when apologizing. Sounds insincere, like, sorry if I hurt your feelings. Try, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. I was insensitive, shouldn't have said that. More genuine, right? But what if you apologize and they're still upset? Don't get defensive. Try validating their emotions. Say something like, I understand you're upset and I want to make things right. Shows you're listening and that you want to fix it. And remember, actions speak louder than words. Don't just say you're sorry, do something to show it. Small gesture, like a note, offering help, or maybe something bigger, like actually changing your behavior. Show them you mean it. Wow, we covered a lot today, huh? Body language, small talk, awkward situations, bad news, we went through it all. Techniques to connect better, build relationships, navigate this social world with more confidence and ease. But here's the thing I've learned. It's not about mastering every technique or being some social butterfly. It's about being genuine, being present, interested in the people you're with. Listen more than you talk. Ask questions. Really try to understand their perspective. Be kind, respectful, and put yourself out there, even when it's scary. So go out there, practice, experiment, see what works for you. Most importantly, have fun. Communication should be enjoyable, not a chore. Remember, it's a journey, not a destination. Embrace the journey. Be open to learning and enjoy the ride.